Gruff, obviously tough day at the office on the weekend, reflected by Steve's frustrations afterwards.
Yeah, that was fair, and that's a snippet with what went on into the change room really, and the feedback the group have had, and with all immersing our players and coaches together on that frustration and all culpable. It's at the Liberty one, and we've done a fair number of games now that I've barely experienced us being so passive. We've had over 5-6 years or so, perhaps 1 or 2 away games where we've had performances that help, but never the Liberty. And I feel the supporters are there and what we put on the field, and we've got to react to that now and give the supporters a bit of energy and aggression in the way we're playing the game and represent the Ospreys in the way we should.
Is that just, what do you put that down to the start of the season? I mean, you didn't start possibly the way you would have, albeit with a win against Everton, just seep through to the second game against Glasgow as well?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, you do examine all and everything, you sort of at all hours as well, as we should. And I think we're trying to put tweaks into our game per se. You're always trying to evolve and challenge the players around the decision making, but then you've got to question the sort of detail you put into that. And sometimes perhaps you don't see the wood from the trees around how a team has got to get momentum and put a side on the back foot. So we're trying to do all and everything without standing for anything significant. We've had a couple of decent moments around our first phase attack in all 3 games, but some of them have just been good direct moments, and you get rewarded with a few options coming from the referee or from the opposition giving penalties away. So there's a template there that we've got to refer to whilst we continue chipping away the way we want to take our game forward, whilst also having a bit of energy and, like I said, aggression on both sides of the ball. Offensive game has got to have a little bit more nous about it, and without the ball as well, we've got to perhaps go searching to get it back.
A few of your Lions players have been on phased return. How are you looking this weekend? I know a few came off the bench. Dan came off the bench last week.
Yeah, all the players will be travelling to this sort of mini tour available for the Treviso game and the Cheetahs. So we're weighing up a couple of things there, but all get significant game time the next 2 weeks.
How do you view these 2 games? It's a different concept for yourselves with going to Italy but then straight to the Southern Hemisphere.
Yeah, there's difference in something. I think obviously it's well documented. I think the league needs to change, and obviously the revenue that's behind it and the scope for future improvements. But within that, the rugby's exciting as well. We've just got to, in terms of where we are, scratching around for a bit of form, use it as time away with players that's valuable. Off the field, having good conversations instead of just corridor chats about rugby, spending a bit more time about individual attentions of the game, the coaching of the game, where we are for the Treviso challenge and the Cheetahs the week before. Both present different challenges. The Treviso one's obviously the one uppermost in our mind at the moment, but we are embracing going away and, as I said, having the time away as a group and just to develop a little bit of cohesion amongst ourselves.
Treviso will be up for this one, obviously, given their win last time round.
Last week in the league as well was a big result for them up in Edinburgh, and looking at some of the smart rugby they're playing, and certainly the one in March still hurts, and probably is the start of something that we're desperate to snap out of. And we've got to look at Treviso's style of play, the difficulties they've caused us before out in their stadium, and so tactically we've got to be on the money around, understand their kicking game is very efficient, but also, as I said, just trying to get to a point where we're going to get momentum in our game, get some of our ball carriers on the game in better positions, and then our structure can flow from that. But that's giving full respect to Treviso's side that's got physicality and has developed a good repertoire of attacking play as well. With Kieran Crowley, you can see his template coming through.
I know at the time you said that game in Treviso came at the right time because we had a bit of a break, but looking back, did it disrupt momentum as well, because you were flying before that, and then that possibly was the start of the tough period you had at the tail end of the season?
Yeah, it was. I think we went up and won in Edinburgh, which was a good result, but we felt physically we were hanging in there. All the data was saying, that the squad were needing a little bit of a re-energising in terms of time away from the environment, both physically and mentally, we felt. and then coming back in, we felt pretty energised going to Treviso, but tactically outfought. And as I said, there's an arm wrestle as well involved in some of those Treviso matchups, and we didn't have any intent in that aspect of the game last year. And yeah, you could say that hangover continued thereafter. I think there's lots of other things we've covered before behind that as well, but I think it's perhaps just something that's got us to this point. We've got to snap out of it and show a bit more desire and, as I said, a little bit more smartness to give us a little bit of creativity on the field.
If there's been a reaction players to what Steve said, seen the changing rooms and then afterwards.
Good, strong reaction. I wouldn't say 100% positive. You don't want it to be. You want a little bit of niggling around the environment, but there's lots of good chats happening as opposed to just official team briefs, review, preview, which tends to be a bit formulaic at times. I'm finding a lot more chats around not so much style of play, but what our working week's got to look like. And some of the senior players involved in that, they're sitting down amongst themselves. They're bringing stuff to me in terms of our backs review, so it's not just me, selling a message. There's a little bit of integration around the way they see the game, and there's got to be that around stuff we've done traditionally well in the past. It's a two-way thing, and I think it creates, as we've always had, a degree of trust and empathy around the demands these guys get with the coaching of what we're trying to put a lot of detail in, and as I said, sometimes too much at any given time. So it's understand what's going to get us the best motivational climate and the best rugby climate to succeed, and they're at the heart of that.
Yeah, and you mentioned Nigel, did you see that extra bit of edge in training?
Yeah, there's a few things going off the ball today, and that's something that's, again, traditionally I've seen so many different players coming in around this training environment, and the ones leave their mark. Obviously the ones we've seen down the years, down the Liberty and succeeding in away trips, but I'm also privileged to have seen a lot of stuff behind the scenes on the real hard Osprey rugby men, put the training effort in, not just physically around the way they hit and the way they ball carry, but also how they conduct themselves. That Monday is run really well, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, everything all dovetails into a consistent tough week, as opposed to just having a bit of inconsistency around players and coaches.
Do you feel you're not far away from hitting that switch?
Yeah, definitely. I think we're getting closer, and I can't hide behind the fact we've been shoddy, but within the games there's been snippets of stuff which is pretty pleasing. I know that'll sound a little bit fake in some ways, but I can see strands of some of the good in us. When we've been good in the 22, some of the directness, when we've been good around the kicking game, when we've been good around our set piece attack. Delighted with the try against Munster, something that was preempted, and then Hookie smart enough to just react to a defensive picture and finish a great try. So there's snippets in there, but under no illusions, we've got to be more consistent around tying our set piece game, our counter attack game, and then the way we sort of integrate with our defence, which is a strength of ours last year. We've got to perhaps dovetail it to a bit more now.
Turn back the clock a bit there, James, that try. It was one of those sort of moments that could be a difference as well, things like that.
Yeah, we see those moments. Unfortunately, probably the selection and having a different sort of vision at 12 didn't pan out, because after we didn't create anything in the first three phases to get momentum, to see someone like James Hook dictating on either side of the ruck. But there's enough vision, and hopefully if we add some pace and penetration around not just the backs of the team, we can start to see more of some of these guys flourish on the front foot, because we can't keep playing lateral.
Yeah, obviously Dan Biggers only had 3-4 minutes off the bench there at the end of the game on Saturday. The plan is to obviously get him more involved this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. He's highly immersed in where we are as a group. He's a smart man who's been around an Osprey rugby environment, but national environments for a while. So he's got his own, feelings on things that he can add to it, and it's just dovetailing everything that we've done into, where Dan can be really effective for us, and it's stuff that water ducks back to him. But I'm really looking forward to seeing him out there, and he does, guide the ship in so many different positive ways, and. There's also a mental spike to some of the stuff we get with not just Daniel, but other people on the field as well, to complement that. He's been a great Osprey, and he will be for the rest of this season.
Is everyone all right fitness-wise in terms of knocks on the weekend, or boys coming back or anything like that?
As we were, I think, in terms of people like Owen Watkin getting a game in the Premiership as well, is just has been good for us to see. there's some good Premiership performances going on as well around some of our younger players. Kieran Williams, Joe Thomas, Owen Watkins. So there's a clutch of hopefully depth going as well.
And Ali did get through fine in terms of his, because obviously I think Steve mentioned the plan was just to give him a run off the bench and start until James was down.
Yeah, no, physically he's fine. He's probably a little bit frustrated that again he couldn't get much going, and again some of the strands of how we play off both sides of the ball. He chased a little bit, but he's doing some damn fine work in the background, and he'd be at the foremost of things we're doing in the next few weeks.
What have you made of Corey Ireland's progress since he's joined in the summer?
I've enjoyed him. He had a good summer. He came back early for us in terms of having done Wales. We've got him up refreshed a week earlier than he would do normally, but he felt he needed that just to get up to speed with some of the language and some of the style and what we're trying to put into our game and his role within it. He's had some good performances pre-season, a run of games. Zebra, I believe he was man of the match. It's been difficult sometimes to try and get consistency around midfield, especially someone like Luke Price's injury dictated James had to play at 10, and so we've just been looking to find the balance around some of the vision in the midfield and how we can create a little bit more outside of 10, and Corey's developing that aspect. There's a couple of kick options which we're pretty comfortable with, but perhaps the style and choice of kick is something we've got to examine as a backline. But he's someone we feel we can keep developing his game. He's a pretty smart rugby player. He's just got to, as a lot of the group have, is sometimes find a way through losing momentum in games, how we can get it back, and how he can have a positive influence on the game, which he and others couldn't find on the weekend, and we're working our way through that with him and all the players.
Talking about balance and creativity, is that partnership between Hook and Corey, is that partnership you might look to grow? Because obviously some people may say that Hook isn't a 10, but perhaps he's better at 12 and played well in the weekend. Is that something that you see a lot of potential in that centre partnership?
Yeah, well, we signed James Hook as someone who's going to add value to the back line. As I said, outside of 10, we know he can do a decent enough job for us at 10, and I think it is getting the partnership set in around, with James there at 13. We need some sort of penetration there. Corey's done aspects of that in the summer. We've got other options like Ben John, Fonatia, with some of the pace and direction we can get there. And as I said, playing off a playmaker like James does appeal to how we're trying to develop our game and the game of our 10s as well. Not forgetting, as I said, and I'll mention Owen Watkins is someone that's working well in the background. Disrupted summer again with the starting up for us in Leicester and then the HIA. But I see people like Owen Watkins and Ashley as a real good fit for us as 12. And James maybe even further back. So there's enough to go on around the back line. But as long as we've got wingers and 13s per se as well, who can just give a counterbalance to just the fill and the physicality and the skill set we need to. Because skills wise as well is something we've got to keep challenging around all these players. Talk about making decisions and getting some momentum, but we need skills to underpin it as well.
In terms of Corey, obviously he was one of these players, he came through the 20s and he was sort of singled out for great things, but injuries obviously held him back. Do you think there's a lot more to come from him, and do you think long term he could be a real asset for Wales at international level as well as for you guys at regional level?
Yeah, he could be. I always say you've got to earn your corner. I think week in, week out at regional level. He's done well around pre-season, and to get the start he had thus far, he's probably adjusting to that load now in terms of working with us and the demands on him. But we've got to make sure that motivationally, emotionally, he's always up yours an Osprey, and I think that's the challenge for all the players really. But then within that, how he and others can be mentally tough every day, every week, and we haven't shown those characteristics into a Saturday. That's not just Corey, that's a number of us, and that's the challenge to the group. That can we be real tough, hard buggers per se, just that what we put onto the field as Ospreys, and that's what you're looking to, even though there's a lot of detail goes within it, you want a bit of character to come through, and that'll be his challenge, I think, then being a dominant player at the regional level to become, I think, a regular international player, and he can certainly do it.
Griff, you can't be over-reliant on someone like Wyn, but seeing him back now, the last of the guys really that have come back after the busy summer for this period, when we were 2 games, it sort of lifts everyone involved. Yeah,
it does, and it should do, having a world-class player and a world-class leader in your midst. But I think sometimes you know, we can look too much at Al and one or two others around the group. I think it's about time we as players, coaches, you've got to just stand on your own 2 feet as well. I think we just expect Al to come back in and everything's going to be okay. I think that's a horrible thing to have to think and assume. And I think, you know, that's the worst thing someone like Alan Wynne would want or need from this group of players in this squad. I think, yes, you know, emotionally and rugby-wise, he's going to give so many attributes that people will respond off, and obviously I certainly hope we will do over the next couple of weeks. But I'd also urge these players to stand up for themselves. You know, as I said, I've seen many Ospreys come through the system. The ones who become great Ospreys are the ones who actually stand up and make a difference for themselves and don't just look around and socially loaf. They've all got to make a difference.
And one of the other influential figures is Rees Webb. His future is still unsure. However, how important is it with Dan going that you have Sam in that position already, that someone like Ruben and so on, that they are developed if Rees were to move on in future this season or whenever?
Yeah, I think Rees, you know, seems pretty comfortable. I mean, he's put himself in a great place around the national game and the next World Cup on the horizon. I think he fits in still with our aspirations, and I think he's seen a system where he's learned and developed from experienced nines in the past in the Osprey world, and he's now of that mould where he has got a role. And people like Ruben, you can see some of our scrum attack, our work off line-out drives where Rees Webb, you know, is a step ahead of, you know, nigh on everyone on the field. That's great learning for young players in the background. People like Matthew Aubrey, Harry Morgan as well, playing for Bridgend on the weekend. There's a clutch of young nines who I really hope, you know, can learn and glean as much as they can from Rees in a long time ahead.